Hey guys, a couple people have wanted a video of just a couple different things on using the TI calculator. So this is going to cover a couple of basic things and a couple of other nice features that it has that we can use, or that you've seen me use but not quite been sure how to do. So first off, I'm using a TI-84 plus CE, but most of these TI-84 calculator variants have very similar, if not the same features. So if you're using a slightly older version, you should be able to do pretty much all of this still. So first thing is switching modes of your calculator. So most of the time we've so far been using degree mode on our calculator, but sometimes you'll either want to put it in radian mode, especially in future units when we start graphing sine and cosine and stuff like that. And then also sometimes the calculator, for whatever reason, ends up being in radian mode, and so you'll want to know how to switch it to degree mode to do things for right triangle trig. So the first thing we're going to look at is how to change the mode. So if you notice across the top, it tells you what mode it's in right now. Mine's in degree mode. But if I wanted it to be radian mode, you just hit the mode button and then go down to where it says radian, and you'd highlight that and hit enter. And now it's in radian mode. You can see it changes it across the top here. If you would rather it be back in degree mode, though, you just slide over and hit enter again, and now it's back in degree mode. There's a couple other mode things that you'll get into later on, like how you would like it to display fractions, or how you would like it to display answers and things like that, or a lot of different things. When you get to calculus, you'll talk about parametric and polar mode and sequence and stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to stick with changing between degree and radian. You can also, I guess, decide if you would like it to be in math print or classic. I tend to leave mine in math print mode, but there's some advantages to having it in classic mode as well. But again, those aren't things that you typically run into until you get to calculus. So then to get out of this screen, you just hit second and then the mode button again, because that's also known as the quit button. And then from there, you can do things like sine of 90, and it will give you answers as though you were putting in degrees. So make sure you pay attention to whichever problem you're doing, whether it's dealing in radians or dealing with degrees, so that you don't end up with weird answers. Another thing I wanted to go over real quick is how to use the inverse functions, like inverse sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's say I wanted to find the inverse cosine of 12/13 or something. So I'd go second and then hit the cosine button, and inverse cosine pops up. And then you'd go 12/13, enter. And it would tell you, it's going to give you an angle in degrees because we're still in degree mode. So that's another thing that we've been using a lot this quarter so far. Let's see, what else? Sometimes we'll be working with multiplying by pi and stuff like that, which is also a secondary function on this calculator. Like we did in this problem right here. This was one of the ones that we worked on today. It was from our worksheet on Friday. We were doing some unit conversions between and then going back and forth between angular and linear velocity and stuff like that. So when we multiplied this, we multiplied everything across the top first. So we did 480 times 60 times 26 pi. If you want to, you can just leave this as 748,800 pi. But then when you get your final answer at the end, you typically want something a little bit more meaningful in the format of a decimal. But this would be your exact answer for multiplying across the top. Or you could multiply it by pi right away. So you can go times second, and then this button has the pi key here. That up caret has the pi as its secondary function. And it would give you a decimal. Either way, if you use this or if you use 748,800 pi, when you're dividing at the end to figure out your answer, you should get the same thing when you round to 3 decimal places here. So it doesn't make a huge difference if you round intermediately on this one. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Remember, the more decimal places that you keep, the better your final answer is going to match up with what everyone else is getting, and with being exact and whatnot. And then we just multiplied across the bottom as well. We'd go 1 times 1 times 12 times 5,280. So all you really need to do there is go 12 times 5,280. And that gives you 63,360. Now, for getting our final answer of 37.128 miles per hour, one nice thing that you can do here is, let's say I wanted to get this number again. I can just go up until that number is highlighted, which it's kind of hard to see with this screen. But once that number is highlighted, you hit enter, and it brings it back down to where you can work with it again. And then you can go divided by, and then another nice thing you can do if you want to just reference the last answer that you got, you can hit second, and then this button down here, ANS, it uses the last thing that you had as an answer. So we get 37.1279, which rounds to 37.128 if we're rounding to 3 decimal places. Another handy thing you can do is you can store numbers. So let's say I didn't want to write this whole number down, but I needed to use it somewhere else, like in the next part of the problem, if I needed to use that number. I can hit the store button, STO, and then notice all these little lime green letters. If I hit alpha and then this first lime green A and enter, that stores that number as A. So if I wanted to use it again, like let's say I wanted to multiply it by something, if I wanted to go 368 times that number, I can just hit alpha A, enter, and it multiplies this number by 368. So that's another useful feature, especially if you're working with a lot of numbers. You just need to remember what you saved where. And if you forget, or sometimes if you're going to save a number, it's useful to like write down on your paper what you saved it as. Or if you forget, you can just hit alpha A, enter, and it will remind you what you saved there. So yeah, those are some of the kind of useful features that you'll hopefully get to start using on your TI-84. If there's any other features that you want have questions about, or anything you're wondering how to do, feel free to comment or send me an email. I can make a different video or show you in class or something like that. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully this was helpful.